He is oddly possessive of me and of a child. That isn't his. But I'm only the Alpha's maid. Werewolf Shifter. Romance Audiobook. Hello, lovely listeners. Welcome back to Dora's Romance Audiobooks. I'm Dora, and today I have a story that will keep you guessing until the very end. This is a tale of secrets and protection, of a man who guards what isn't his to guard, and a woman who's been running for so long, she's forgotten what it feels like to stand still. Sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't what we're running from. It's what we might find if we finally stop. So get comfortable, maybe grab a blanket, and let me tell you about an alpha who breaks all his own rules, a maid who's far more than she seems, and a little girl who binds them together in ways neither of them expected. Prologue. There were 3 rules Aria Laurent lived by. 1. Never stay in one place longer than 6 months. 2. Never let anyone get close enough to ask questions. 3. Never, ever let them see Lily's eyes. For 2 years, Aria had followed these rules religiously. 2 years of running, hiding, working menial jobs that paid cash and required no background checks. 2 years of dyeing her daughter's distinctive silver hair dark brown every 3 weeks. 2 years of teaching a 4-year-old to lie about her age, her name, her very existence. 2 years of looking over her shoulder, waiting for the day they'd finally be found. The Silvercrest pack estate loomed before her, massive and imposing against the gray autumn sky. Aria clutched Lily's hand tighter as they approached the servants' entrance, her heart pounding against her ribs. "Remember," she whispered, kneeling to adjust Lily's hood. "Your name is Rose. You're 3 years old. And if anyone asks about your eyes, I keep them down," Lily recited dutifully, her voice small. "I don't look at the alphas. I don't shift, even if it hurts." Aria's heart clenched. No child should have to carry such burdens, but the alternative, being found by the Blackwood pack, by him, was far worse. "Good girl," Aria pressed a kiss to Lily's forehead. "We're going to be safe here. I promise." It was a lie. They were never safe. But Silvercrest was remote, its alpha reportedly reclusive and disinterested in pack politics. It was as close to invisible as they could get. At least, that's what Aria had thought. She hadn't counted on Alpha Thorne Silvercrest being the most intense, observant, and inexplicably protective man she'd ever met. She hadn't counted on the way his ice-blue eyes would linger on Lily with an expression that looked almost like recognition. And she definitely hadn't counted on falling for a man who could destroy everything she'd worked so hard to protect. But then again, the moon goddess had never been particularly kind to Aria Laurent. Why would she start now? Chapter 1. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Thornberry, was a severe woman with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to catalog every flaw. "You'll clean the east wing," she said, her tone clipped as she led Aria through the servants' corridors. "Alpha Thorne rarely uses those rooms, but he insists they be maintained. You'll work dawn to dusk, 6 days a week. Sundays are your own, though I expect you to attend pack gatherings." Aria's stomach tightened. Pack gatherings meant exposure, questions, scrutiny. "About that," she began carefully, "I'm not actually part of the pack. I'm human, so perhaps—" Mrs. Thornberry's sharp gaze cut to her. "Human?" The Alpha specifically requested shifter staff. I have some shifter blood. Distant." The lie came easily after 2 years of practice. "But I can't shift. Birth defect. That's why I need the work. Most packs won't employ defective shifters." It was close enough to the truth to be believable, and it explained why Aria's scent was off, muted in a way that made it hard to identify her as fully shifter or human. Mrs. Thornberry's expression softened marginally. "I see. Well, the Alpha is generous with outcasts. As long as you work hard, you'll have a place here." Her gaze dropped to Lily, who stood pressed against Aria's leg, hood still pulled low. "The child will need to stay in the servants' quarters during working hours. Actually, I was hoping to keep her with me." Aria's grip on Lily tightened. "She's very quiet. She won't be any trouble. Absolutely not. This is an Alpha's estate, not a nursery. Let the child stay. The voice was deep, commanding, and came from the doorway behind them. Aria turned, her breath catching. Alpha Thorne Silvercrest stood in the threshold, and he was overwhelming. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell just past his collar, and eyes the pale blue of winter ice. He wore simple clothes, dark pants and a black Henley, but power radiated from him in waves that made Aria's dormant wolf whimper in submission. A wolf she'd been suppressing so long she'd almost forgotten it existed. "Alpha," Mrs. Thornberry said, bowing her head. "I was just explaining the household rules. The child stays with her mother." Thorne's gaze fixed on Lily, and something flickered in those ice-blue eyes. "What's your name, little one?" Lily pressed closer to Aria, keeping her head down as instructed. "She's shy," Aria said quickly. "Her name is Rose. She's 3. "Rose." Thorne repeated the name slowly, as if tasting it for truth. His eyes lifted to Aria's. "And you are?" "Aria Laurent, the new maid." She forced herself to meet his gaze despite every instinct screaming at her to submit, to look away. "Thank you for the opportunity, Alpha." "You're afraid." The statement was matter of fact, not accusatory. Aria's pulse jumped. "I'm grateful," she corrected carefully. "You're both." Thorne moved closer, and Aria caught his scent, pine and snow, wild and clean. "Why?" "I don't understand. Why are you afraid?" Thorne's gaze was too knowing, too perceptive. "You clutch the child like someone might steal her. You position yourself between her and every door. You're running from something." Panic clawed up Aria's throat. It had been less than 5 minutes, and he'd already seen too much. "I'm just a cautious mother," she said, keeping her voice steady. "The world isn't always kind to women alone with children." Thorne studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "No, it isn't." He turned to Mrs. Thornberry. "Give them the cottage behind the rose garden, not the servants' quarters." Mrs. Thornberry's eyes widened. "Alpha, that cottage is reserved for whoever I say it's reserved for." Thorne's tone allowed no argument. "They'll have privacy there. And, Mrs. Laurent, you may bring the child with you while you work. I won't have her frightened and alone." Aria stared at him, completely thrown. No one had shown her kindness in 2 years. No one had cared about Lily's comfort. "Thank you," she managed. "That's very generous. It's practical." Thorne's expression was unreadable. Frightened workers make mistakes. "I prefer efficiency." He paused at the door, looking back. "Welcome to Silvercrest, Aria Laurent. I hope you find what you're looking for here." The words felt weighted, with meaning Aria couldn't decipher. After he left, Mrs. Thornberry let out a long breath. Well, that was unusual. What was? The Alpha taking personal interest in a new servant. He's usually distant. Mrs. Thornberry's sharp eyes narrowed on Aria. "You must have made quite an impression." Aria's stomach twisted with anxiety. Making an impression was the last thing she needed. The cottage was small, but beautiful. 1 bedroom, a cozy sitting area, a fireplace that actually worked. It was more than Aria had dared hope for. That night, after Lily was asleep, Aria stood at the window, looking out at the main estate. Somewhere in that massive building, Alpha Thorne was probably working, or sleeping, or doing whatever mysterious things Alphas did. She should be relieved. The job was better than expected, the housing comfortable, the Alpha apparently willing to accommodate Lily's presence. Instead, she was terrified. Because the way Thorne had looked at Lily, with that flash of recognition, of something almost like familiarity, meant he'd seen past the dyed hair and the lowered eyes. He'd seen something he recognized. And if he had, it was only a matter of time before he figured out what. Aria pressed her hand to the window, her reflection ghostly in the dark glass. 3 months, she whispered to herself. We stay 3 months, save money, then move on. Rule number 1, never stay longer than 6 months. She'd already broken rule number 2 by letting the Alpha get close enough to ask questions. She couldn't afford to break rule number 3. No one could ever see Lily's eyes, because if they did, they'd know the truth. And the truth would get them both killed. Chapter 2. Aria settled into a routine over the following weeks. She cleaned the East Wing as assigned, working with quiet efficiency, while Lily played nearby with a set of worn wooden blocks Aria had carried through a dozen different towns. True to his word, Alpha Thorne never objected to Lily's presence. In fact, he seemed to seek it out. It started small. He'd appear in whatever room Aria was cleaning, always with some excuse, checking on renovations, looking for a particular book, needing to speak with Mrs. Thornberry, who just happened to not be there. But his attention was never really on the room or the excuse. It was on Lily. "Hello, little Rose," he'd say, his deep voice softening in a way that made Aria's heart do complicated things. Lily, for her part, remained cautiously distant at first. But children had a way of sensing genuine kindness, and Thorne's interest seemed authentic. One afternoon, Aria found them sitting together by the East Wing fireplace. Thorne was on the floor, and Alpha on the floor, showing Lily how to stack her blocks into increasingly complex structures. "If you balance this one just right," he was saying, his large hands guiding Lily's small ones, "the whole tower becomes stronger instead of more fragile." Lily giggled when the tower stood, clapping her hands. Then, for just a moment, she looked up at him with unguarded joy. Her hood slipped back slightly. Aria's heart stopped, but Lily caught herself, quickly ducking her head and pulling the hood back up. The moment passed so quickly that Aria couldn't tell if Thorne had noticed. His expression gave nothing away. "Your daughter is very intelligent," Thorne said that evening, appearing at the cottage door with an armful of books. "I thought she might enjoy these. They were mine when I was young." Aria stared at the books, beautiful leather-bound volumes with gilded pages. These weren't cheap children's books. These were treasures. "Alpha, I can't accept these. They're too valuable. They're gathering dust." Thorne's ice-blue eyes met hers. "And Rose should have stories. All children should." He held her gaze for a moment too long, and Aria felt something shift between them. An awareness, sharp and electric. She took the books, her fingers brushing his. The contact sent a jolt through her that had nothing to do with fear. "Thank you," she said softly. "You're welcome." Thorne didn't move from the doorway. "She looks like you know. Same bone structure. Same stubborn chin." Aria's pulse jumped. People say that, but not the eyes. Thorne's voice was casual, but Aria felt the weight behind the words. "I haven't seen her eyes yet. She's very careful to keep them hidden." "She's shy. She's trained." Thorne's gaze sharpened. "Trained to hide. To be invisible. A 4-year-old shouldn't have that kind of discipline unless someone taught her it was necessary for survival." Aria's throat went dry. "She's 3. "No," Thorne said quietly. "She's not." The truth hung between them like a blade. Aria calculated distances, exits, how fast she could pack their things and disappear into the night. "I'm not going to hurt you," Thorne said, reading her panic with unnerving accuracy. "Either of you, but I would like the truth, Aria. Why are you running? And from whom?" "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." Thorne stepped into the cottage, closing the door behind him. The space suddenly felt much smaller. "I've been an Alpha for 10 years. I know fear when I see it. I know secrets." His voice softened. "And I know when someone desperately needs help, but is too afraid to ask for it." Aria's defenses crumbled slightly. She was so tired. So tired of running, of lying, of carrying this burden alone. "I can't tell you," she whispered. "If I tell you, you'll either turn us away, or worse." "Worse how?" "You'll try to help, and helping us will put you in danger." Aria met his eyes. I won't do that to you. You've been kind. I won't repay kindness with destruction. Thorne moved closer, close enough that she could feel his warmth. What if I'm willing to risk it? You don't know what you'd be risking. Then tell me. Aria laughed, the sound brittle. Just like that? Tell the Alpha all my secrets and hope he doesn't immediately contact the Council? Hope he doesn't decide we're too much trouble? Yes. Thorne's hand lifted, hovering near her cheek, but not quite touching. Just like that. Trust me, Aria. Let me help you. God, she wanted to collapse into the promise of protection, of safety, of not being alone anymore. But she'd learned the hard way that trusting the wrong person got people killed. I need to check on Lily, she said, stepping back. Thank you for the books, Alpha. Good night. It was a dismissal. Thorne recognized it as such, but instead of looking offended, he looked sad. When you're ready, he said quietly, I'll be here. And Aria, whatever you're running from, whatever you're afraid of, you're safe in Silvercrest. I give you my word, as Alpha. After he left, Aria sank into a chair, her hands trembling. She'd been in Silvercrest for 3 weeks, and she was already in far too deep. Chapter 3. The nightmares started on the first night of the full moon. Aria woke to Lily's screams, finding her daughter tangled in sweat-soaked sheets, her small body convulsing with the forced suppression of her shift. Shh, baby, I've got you, Aria murmured, pulling Lily into her arms. Breathe through it, just like we practiced. It hurts, Mama, Lily sobbed. It hurts so much. Why can't I shift like other kids? Because we're special, Aria said, the lie tasting like ash. And special things have to stay hidden to stay safe. She held Lily through the worst of it, singing soft lullabies until the convulsions stopped and her daughter fell into an exhausted sleep. But the damage was done. In the morning, Lily was feverish and weak, dark circles under her eyes. We need a healer, Aria realized with dawning dread. She couldn't take Lily to the pack healer. Too many questions, too much exposure. But leaving the fever untreated could be just as dangerous. A knock at the cottage door made her jump. Thorne stood outside, his expression concerned. I heard screaming last night. Is Rose all right? Aria positioned herself in the doorway, blocking his view inside. She's fine. Just nightmares. Aria? Thorne's voice was gentle but firm. I can smell the sickness from here. Let me help. We don't need, please. The single word stopped her protests. Let me help you, both of you. There was something in his eyes, a depth of understanding that suggested he knew far more than he was saying. Against her better judgment, Aria stepped aside. Thorne entered the cottage, moving straight to where Lily lay on the small bed. He knelt beside her, pressing a large hand to her forehead with surprising gentleness. Shift suppression sickness, he said quietly. She tried to shift and couldn't. Or wouldn't. Aria's blood turned to ice. How did you... I know the symptoms. Thorne's ice-blue eyes lifted to hers. I know a lot of things, Aria, including the fact that your daughter is a shifter child who's being prevented from shifting, which means she's either cursed or you're doing it deliberately. I can explain. You don't have to. Thorne stood, moving toward Aria. Not yet. Right now, we need to treat the fever before it gets worse. He paused. Will you trust me enough to let my healer see her? I'll make sure no questions are asked. Aria's throat tightened. She was out of options, and out of time. Okay, she whispered. Within an hour, the pack healer, a kind elderly woman named Sarah, had examined Lily and prepared a tonic. Shift suppression is dangerous in young wolves, Sarah said, her expression troubled. Their bodies need to shift to develop properly. Preventing it causes damage over time. I know, Aria said quietly. Sarah studied her for a long moment. But you do it anyway, because the alternative is worse. It wasn't a question. Aria didn't answer. After Sarah left, Thorne remained. He sat in the chair by Lily's bed, keeping watch while Aria tried to calm her racing thoughts. "She'll sleep through the night now," he said eventually. "The tonic will help with the pain." "Thank you." Aria's voice was barely audible. "For helping us. For not asking." "I'm asking now." Thorne's gaze was steady. "What's her real name? And why are you keeping her from shifting?" Aria closed her eyes. She'd known this moment would come. Had known from the first day that Thorne was too perceptive, too caring to let this go. "Her name is Lily," she said finally. "Lily Blackwood." Thorne went very still. Blackwood. As in the Blackwood Pack? The ruling family of the Northern Territories? Yes. "And you're keeping her hidden from them because they want her dead." The words burst from Aria like a confession. "Because she's evidence of a crime they want buried. And because if they find her, they'll kill us both to keep their secret safe." Thorne's expression darkened. "Tell me everything." So Aria did. She told him about her sister, Melanie, who'd been mated to Marcus Blackwood, the Pack's alpha. About how Melanie had discovered Marcus's involvement in illegal pack trafficking, selling rogues and weak shifters to fighting rings. About how Melanie had planned to expose him to the council. About how she'd died in a car accident 3 days before she could testify. "Melanie was pregnant when she died," Aria said, her voice hollow with old grief. 6 months pregnant. They said the baby died with her, but I was there that night. I was visiting when they came, Marcus's enforcers. They didn't know I was in the house." Aria's hands clenched into fists. "I hid in the closet while they staged the accident, and I heard them talking afterward, about how lucky they were that Melanie had given birth prematurely from the stress before she died, about how they'd dealt with the evidence." "Evidence?" Thorne's voice was sharp. "The baby, Lily." Aria met his eyes. "I went back to the house after they left. Found her in the nursery, wrapped in blankets, left to die of exposure. They thought she was dead already. Weren't even going to bury her." Thorne's jaw clenched. "You took her." "I took her and I ran. I've been running ever since." Aria's voice cracked. "She's 4 years old and she's spent half her life learning to hide. Learning to lie about her name, her age, her very existence. Because if Marcus finds her, he'll kill her. She's proof that Melanie was pregnant when she died. Proof that might make people question the official story." "And her eyes?" Thorne asked gently. "Why does she hide those?" Aria swallowed hard. "Because they're silver. Pure silver. A trait that only appears in the Blackwood bloodline's direct descendants. One look at her eyes, and anyone from the Northern Territories would know exactly who she is." Thorne was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then he stood, moving to where Lily slept. Carefully, so carefully, he brushed a strand of dyed hair from her small face. Even in sleep, she instinctively kept her eyes closed, kept her secrets. "She shouldn't have to live like this," Thorne said, his voice rough with anger. "No child should." "I know." Tears burned Aria's eyes. "But I don't know how to stop it. Marcus is powerful, connected. If I try to expose him without absolute proof, he'll just deny it and kill us for spreading lies. And the evidence Melanie gathered died with her." "Not all of it." Thorne turned to face her. "Lily is evidence. Living, breathing proof that something is very wrong with Melanie's death story." "Which is exactly why she has to stay hidden," Aria insisted. "The moment anyone realizes she exists, we're both dead." Thorne crossed the room, stopping in front of Aria. "What if you didn't have to hide anymore? What are you suggesting?" "Stay here. In Silvercrest." Thorne's ice-blue eyes were intense. "Under my protection. Let me help you gather real evidence against Marcus. Let me help you end this so Lily can grow up free." Aria shook her head. "You don't understand what you're offering to fight against. Marcus has allies everywhere. Even suggesting that you're harboring his enemies would put your entire pack at risk. I don't care." You should care. Aria's voice rose. Your pack members didn't sign up to be targets. This isn't your fight. It is now. Thorne's hands gripped her shoulders gently but firmly. The moment you walked onto my territory, it became my fight. The moment I saw that little girl suffering, trying to be invisible to stay alive, it became personal. Why? Aria demanded, frustration and fear and desperate hope warring in her chest. Why would you risk everything for people you barely know? Thorne's expression softened. Because 2 years ago, I lost someone I loved to pack politics and power games. Someone who was murdered for threatening the wrong people with the truth. His voice went rough. I couldn't save her. I couldn't protect her. And I've regretted that failure every day since. Understanding dawned. That's why you're so isolated. Why you avoid pack politics. Yes, I withdrew from the council, from interpack relations, from everything that reminded me of what I'd lost. Thorne's hands slid from her shoulders to gently cup her face. But meeting you, meeting Lily, it reminded me why I became an alpha in the first place. To protect those who can't protect themselves. Thorne, let me help you, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Please, let me protect you both. Let me do for you what I couldn't do for her. Aria wanted to argue, wanted to maintain her walls, her distance, her rules. But she was so tired of running, so tired of being afraid. And when Thorne looked at her like she was something precious, something worth fighting for, she wanted desperately to believe that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Okay, she whispered. Okay, we'll stay. We'll fight. Together, Thorne said firmly. Together, Aria agreed, and when he pulled her into his arms, when she let herself lean into his strength for the first time in 2 years, it felt like coming home. Even though she knew, deep in her bones, that the hardest part was yet to come. Chapter 4. Over the following weeks, Silvercrest transformed from a hiding place into a home. Thorne was true to his word. He set his best warriors to quietly investigating Marcus Blackwood, looking for evidence of the pack trafficking operation. He increased security around the estate, and he made it clear to his pack that Aria and Lily were under his personal protection. The pack members responded with varying degrees of curiosity and acceptance. Most were kind to Aria, and all of them seemed charmed by Lily, who, under Thorne's gentle encouragement, slowly began to emerge from her shell. Can I show you something? Thorne asked one evening, finding Aria in the library. He led her to his private study, where maps and documents covered every surface. I've been researching Marcus's operation, he explained, and I found a pattern. Every 6 months, there's a spike in missing persons reports from packs near Blackwood territory. Rogues, low-ranking pack members, anyone who wouldn't be missed. Aria studied the maps, her stomach twisting. Fighting rings? Probably. The fights are held in neutral territory, always moving locations, but there's usually an auction beforehand, where wealthy shifters bid on fighters. Thorne's expression was grim. The next one is scheduled for 2 weeks from now. How do you know? Because I received an invitation. Thorne handed her an elegant black card. Apparently, I'm wealthy and isolated enough to be considered a potential buyer. Aria's eyes widened. You're going to infiltrate it. We are, Thorne corrected. If we can get evidence of Marcus's involvement, photographs, recordings, witness testimony, we can take him down legitimately through the council. It's too dangerous. It's necessary. Thorne moved closer. And I won't let you face this alone anymore, Aria. We're partners in this now. The word sent a thrill through her that had nothing to do with the plan, and everything to do with the man standing before her. Over the past weeks, something had shifted between them. The professional distance of Alpha and servant had blurred into something warmer, more intimate. They ate dinner together most evenings. Thorne read stories to Lily before bed. He touched Aria casually, a hand at the small of her back, fingers brushing as they passed documents, lingering glances that made her heart race. It terrified her. Because falling for Thorne meant risking more than her heart. It meant risking the carefully constructed walls she'd built to survive. "I need to tell you something," Aria said suddenly. Thorne waited, patient as always. "I haven't shifted in over 2 years," she admitted. "Since the night I took Lily, I suppress my wolf the same way I suppress hers. Because if I shift, if I let my guard down even for a moment, someone might sense what I really am." "And what are you?" Thorne asked gently. "Melanie's sister, her twin." Aria met his eyes. We looked identical. Same face, same build. In wolf form, we were indistinguishable. If I shift, if anyone who knew Melanie sees me, they'll recognize me immediately. Understanding dawned in Thorne's expression. "That's why you claim to be defective. Why you hide among humans and weak shifters. Yes, it's safer to be invisible than to be identified." Aria's voice dropped. "But suppressing my wolf for so long, it's starting to hurt. Just like it hurts Lily. We're both slowly killing ourselves to stay hidden." Thorne's hands found her face, tilting it up to meet his gaze. "Then stop hiding. At least here, in Silvercrest. Let your wolf run. Let Lily shift and play with the pack children. You're safe here, Aria. I won't let anyone hurt you." "You can't promise that." "Yes, I can." Thorne's thumb brushed her cheek. "I'm an alpha. Protecting my pack is what I do. And you, Aria Laurent, are mine to protect now." The possessiveness in his tone should have frightened her. Instead, it sent warmth flooding through her veins. "I'm not yours," she said softly. "I'm just your maid." "You stopped being just my maid the moment I saw you." Thorne's voice was rough. "You became something far more important. Something I didn't know I was missing until you were here." "Thorne," he kissed her. It was gentle at first, questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. But Aria didn't pull away. She leaned in, her hands fisting in his shirt, as 2 years of loneliness and fear melted under the warmth of his touch. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Thorne rested his forehead against hers. "Stay with me," he whispered. "Not as my maid, as my partner, my equal. Let me protect you. Let me care for you and Lily." "I don't need protection." "I know. You've proven you can survive on your own. You're strong, capable, fierce." Thorne's hands slid to her waist. "But you shouldn't have to be. Not anymore. Let someone else carry the burden for a while. Let me carry it with you." Aria wanted to say yes, wanted to collapse into the safety he offered, the partnership, the promise of not being alone. But a lifetime of self-reliance held her back. "I need time," she said finally, "to think, to process." Thorne nodded, stepping back, though she could see the effort it took. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." That night, Aria stood at her window, watching the full moon rise over Silvercrest's forests. Her wolf stirred inside her, pressing against her consciousness with a desperate need to run, to be free. For the first time in 2 years, Aria let it. She shifted in the privacy of the cottage, her wolf form manifesting with a relief so profound it brought tears to her eyes. Sleek and silver-gray, identical to the sister she'd lost, Aria's wolf paced the small space before slipping out into the night. She ran through Silvercrest's forests, feeling the earth beneath her paws, the wind in her fur. Freedom. Joy. Life. When she returned to human form hours later, she found Thorne waiting on her cottage steps. "You shifted," he said, a smile playing at his lips. "You were watching. Protecting." Thorne stood, moving toward her. "Your wolf is beautiful, just like you." Aria should have been embarrassed, standing before him in just the shift dress she'd grabbed before transforming back. Instead, she felt powerful, seen. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for giving me a place where I could be myself again. Always." Thorne's hand found hers. And Aria? When you are ready. When you decide what you want from me. From this. I'll be waiting. For as long as it takes. As he walked back to the main house, Aria pressed her hand to her chest, feeling the rapid beating of her heart. She was falling for him. Falling hard and fast and completely. And that, she realized, might be the most dangerous thing of all. Because loving Thorne meant having something to lose. And in her experience, the moon goddess always took away the things you loved most. Chapter 5. The auction was being held in an abandoned warehouse on neutral ground, far from any Pax claimed territory. Thorne and Aria arrived in his sleek black car, both dressed in expensive clothes that marked them as potential buyers. "Remember the plan," Thorne said as they approached the entrance. "We observe, we gather evidence, we leave. No heroics." Aria nodded, though her stomach churned with anxiety. Lily was safe back at Silvercrest with Sarah and Thorne's most trusted warriors. But leaving her had been one of the hardest things Aria had ever done. Inside, the warehouse had been transformed into something darkly elegant. Velvet curtains, expensive liquor, shifters in formal attire milling about with champagne glasses. It looked like a sophisticated party. Until you noticed the cages. Aria's breath caught. Along one wall, 24 shifters were imprisoned, some in human form, some in wolf, all looking terrified or resigned or broken. "Don't react," Thorne murmured, his hand settling at the small of her back. "We're here as buyers. We have to blend in." The auction began. One by one, the captives were brought forward, their qualities described like they were livestock. Fighting experience, size, aggression level. Aria forced herself to watch, to document everything with the tiny camera hidden in her necklace. Evidence. They needed evidence. Then Marcus Blackwood arrived. Aria recognized him immediately from the photographs, tall, silver-haired, with eyes as cold as a snake's. He moved through the crowd like he owned it, greeting buyers with false warmth. "Alpha Silvercrest," Marcus said, spotting Thorne. "I didn't expect to see you here. You've been quite the recluse these past years." "Business brings me out occasionally," Thorne replied smoothly. "Impressive operation you're running." "Oh, this isn't mine." Marcus's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm merely an investor. The real organizer prefers to remain anonymous." "Liar," Aria thought. Everything about his body language screamed ownership. Marcus's gaze slid to Aria. "And who is this lovely creature?" "My companion," Thorne said, his hand tightening possessively on Aria's waist. "Charming." Marcus studied her face. "You look familiar. Have we met?" Aria's heart stopped. "I don't believe so." You remind me of someone. Can't quite place it." Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly. "What did you say your name was?" "I didn't," Thorne interjected smoothly. "And she prefers her privacy. I'm sure you understand." The tension stretched for a beat too long. Then Marcus laughed. "Of course. Discretion is paramount in our circles." He moved on, but Aria felt his gaze on her throughout the night. "We need to leave," she whispered to Thorne. "He's suspicious." "Not yet. We don't have enough evidence." A commotion near the cages cut him off. One of the captives, a young wolf who couldn't have been more than 16, had shifted and was trying to escape. Guards descended immediately, silver collars and chains subduing him with brutal efficiency. "That one's too much trouble," someone said. "Put him down." "No." The word burst from Aria before she could stop it. Every eye in the warehouse turned to her. Thorne's hand tightened warningly on her waist. "I mean," Aria said, thinking fast, "we'll take him. We need fighters with spirit. This one clearly has it." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "The bidding hasn't even started." "Name your price," Thorne said, playing along, despite the tension Aria could feel radiating from him. "We'll pay double to skip the bidding process." It was an outrageous offer. Marcus knew it. but greed won out over suspicion. Very well, 20,000, and he's yours. The exchange was made, papers signed. The young wolf, still in chains, was transferred to their custody. They were loading him into the car when Marcus appeared one more time. "Alpha Silvercrest," he said, his voice carrying a sharp edge. "I've just remembered where I've seen your companion before." Aria's blood turned to ice. "She looks exactly like my late wife, Melanie Blackwood." Marcus's eyes glittered with malice. "In fact, if I didn't know better, I'd swear she was Melanie's twin sister. Aria, wasn't it? The one who disappeared shortly after Melanie's tragic accident." "Interesting," Thorne said, his voice calm despite the danger crackling in the air. "But I'm afraid you're mistaken. This is Elena Morozov, from the Eastern Territories. Perhaps your late wife had distant relatives there. Perhaps." Marcus didn't believe it. They all knew he didn't believe it. "Or perhaps," he said, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper, "you're harboring a fugitive, and something that belongs to me." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you?" Marcus smiled, cold and cruel. "I think you do. I think you have something very precious that was taken from my family, and I want it back." Thorne's power flared, alpha dominance rolling off him in waves. "I don't respond well to threats on my territory or toward my people." "No threat, just a fact." Marcus stepped back. "You have 1 week to return what was stolen. After that, I'll be forced to take more direct action." He walked away, leaving the threat hanging in the air like a blade. "Get in the car," Thorne said urgently. "Now." They drove in tense silence until they were safely across Silvercrest's borders. Only then did Aria allow herself to break down. "He knows," she gasped. "He knows about Lily. He's going to come for her." "He suspects," Thorne corrected. "But he doesn't have proof, and he won't get it. We'll increase security, lock down the borders." "It won't be enough." Aria's voice rose with panic. "You don't understand what he's capable of. He killed his own wife, his own child. What do you think he'll do to anyone who gets in his way?" Thorne pulled the car over, turning to face her. "He'll have to go through me first. And I promise you, Aria, that won't be easy. You can't fight the entire Blackwood pack. I won't have to. We have evidence now." Thorne gestured to her necklace camera. "Photographs of the auction, of the captives, of Marcus's involvement. We take this to the council and they'll want to know why I was there. Why I was investigating him." Aria shook her head. "The moment they start asking questions, my identity comes out. Lily's existence comes out. We lose any element of surprise. Then we don't go to the council yet. We use this evidence to pressure Marcus. Make it clear that if anything happens to you or Lily, this all goes public." It was a gamble, a huge, terrifying gamble. But it was also their only option. "Okay," Aria whispered. "Okay. We try it your way." Thorne pulled her into his arms, and she let herself sink into his warmth, his strength. "I won't let him take her," Thorne said fiercely. "I won't let him take either of you. You're mine now, Aria. Mine to protect. And I take care of what's mine." The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it felt like safety. Like home. Like love. Chapter 6. The attack came 3 days later. Aria woke to the sound of breaking glass and Lily's screams. She was on her feet instantly, shifting mid-leap as armed wolves poured through the cottage windows. Blackwood enforcers. At least 6 of them. Aria's wolf form manifested with a snarl, placing herself between the attackers and where Lily cowered in the corner. She fought with the desperation of a mother protecting her young, teeth and claws flashing. But she was 1 against 6. She was losing. Then Thorne arrived. He came through the door like a force of nature, his massive alpha wolf larger than any she'd ever seen. Ice-blue eyes blazed with fury as he tore into the attackers, with brutal efficiency. The Blackwood enforcers retreated, recognizing they were outmatched, but not before one of them grabbed Lily. "No!" Aria's scream was both human and wolf as she lunged after them. The enforcer was fast, but Thorne was faster. He caught the man at the cottage door, jaws closing around his throat in a hold that was a clear threat. Release the child, or die. The enforcer dropped Lily. Thorne released him just long enough for the man to flee, then turned back to check on them. Aria shifted back to human form, scooping Lily into her arms. The little girl was crying, her hood torn away in the struggle, her silver eyes visible for the first time since they'd arrived at Silvercrest. Eyes that Thorne now saw clearly. Pure silver. Undeniably Blackwood. He shifted back to human form as well, his gaze moving from Lily's eyes to Aria's face. "She has his eyes," Thorne said quietly. "Marcus's eyes. The Blackwood alpha gene." "Yes," Aria whispered. Understanding filled Thorne's expression. "She's not just Melanie's daughter. She's the alpha heir. The true Blackwood heir." Aria nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Marcus has no children of his own. No legitimate heir. If anyone knew Melanie bore a daughter before she died, a daughter with the alpha gene, they'd challenge Marcus's right to leadership. Lily would be the rightful alpha of Blackwood Pack." "That's why he wants her dead," Thorne said, the pieces clicking into place. "Not just to hide his crimes, but to eliminate a rival to his power." "She's 4 years old," Aria said brokenly. "She doesn't want to be an alpha. She just wants to be a normal child. But he'll never let her have that. He'll hunt her until she's dead, or until someone strong enough stops him." Thorne moved toward them, wrapping both Aria and Lily in his arms. "Then I'll stop him." "You can't." "Yes, I can." Thorne's voice was absolute. "I'm an alpha. I have resources, warriors, alliances. And more than that, I have the most powerful motivation in the world." "What's that?" Thorne pulled back enough to meet Aria's eyes. "I love you, both of you, and I won't let anyone hurt my family." The words hung in the air, impossibly precious. "You love me?" Aria's voice was barely a whisper. "From the moment you walked onto my territory." Thorne's hand cupped her face. Stubborn, fierce, protective Aria, who would do anything to save the child she loves. "How could I not fall for you?" "I'm broken," Aria protested. "Damaged. I can't even let my daughter shift without suppressing her. I'm—" "Perfect," Thorne interrupted. "You're perfect, Aria. And so is Lily." He looked down at the little girl, who'd stopped crying and was watching them with wide silver eyes. "You're both my family now, if you'll have me." Lily looked up at Aria, a question in her eyes. "Can he be my daddy?" The innocent question broke something open in Aria's chest. "Do you want him to be?" Lily nodded seriously. "He's nice and strong, and he makes you smile." Aria laughed through her tears. "Yes, he does." "Then yes," Lily decided. "He can be my daddy." Thorne's eyes were suspiciously bright as he knelt to Lily's level. "I would be honored to be your daddy, Lily. To protect you, care for you, and make sure you can grow up free to be whoever you want to be." "Even an alpha?" Lily asked. "Especially an alpha." Thorne smiled. "The world needs more strong, kind leaders like you'll be." As Silvercrest's warriors arrived to secure the cottage and tend to their wounds, as the reality of the attack settled in, Aria made a decision. "We end this," she said. "Now. No more running, no more hiding. We take the evidence to the council, expose Marcus for what he is, and claim Lily's rightful place." "Are you sure?" Thorne asked. "Once we do this, there's no going back. Lily's identity will be public knowledge. She'll have to carry the burden of being the Blackwood heir." "She's already carrying a burden," Aria said, looking at her daughter. "The burden of hiding, of being afraid. At least this way, she'll be free. She'll be safe. Then we do it together." Thorne stood, pulling Aria to her feet. "All of us. A family." That night, as Lily slept peacefully in a heavily guarded room, Thorne and Aria stood together on the balcony of his private chambers. "I need to tell you something," Aria said, "before this goes any further." "I'm listening." "I can never give you children. Melanie and I were both born with a genetic defect. We're carriers, but we can't conceive ourselves." Aria's voice was steady despite the pain. "Lily is a miracle. Melanie managed to carry her to term, but it nearly killed her. I can never— Give me biological children," Thorne finished. "I understand." "Does that change things?" "No." Thorne pulled her close. "I don't need biological children, Aria. I need you. And I already have Lily, who's more than I ever hoped for." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "You're enough. You've always been enough." Aria turned in his arms, rising on her toes to kiss him properly. The kiss deepened, 2 years of loneliness and fear melting away under the heat of newfound love. When they finally broke apart, Thorne rested his forehead against hers. "Stay with me tonight." "Always," Aria whispered. "I'll stay, always." And as he led her inside, as he showed her with touch and whispered words exactly how precious she was to him, Aria finally understood what it meant to be home. Not a place, not safety, but love, partnership, family. And she'd fight with everything she had to protect it. Chapter 7. The council convened within a week. Aria, Thorne, and Lily stood before the assembled alphas, presenting their evidence with quiet authority. Marcus Blackwood sat among them, his face a mask of calm indifference, but Aria could see the rage simmering beneath. "These are serious allegations," the head counselor said, reviewing the photographs and testimony. "Pack trafficking, murder, conspiracy. All easily proven false," Marcus interrupted smoothly. "This woman is Aria Laurent, my late wife's unstable sister. She's been obsessed with the idea that Melanie's death was somehow my fault. She's clearly fabricated this evidence to support her delusions." "The photographs are time-stamped and geotagged," Thorne countered. "The witnesses we've brought forward are willing to testify under oath. This isn't fabrication. It's fact. Facts can be manipulated by those with resources and motivation." Marcus's gaze fixed on Aria. "And she has plenty of motivation, don't you, Aria? Since you stole something that belongs to me." "I've stolen nothing," Aria said clearly. "No?" Marcus smiled coldly. "Then what's that little girl hiding behind you? The one with my family's eyes?" Gasps rippled through the council. All eyes turned to Lily, who indeed had silver eyes, the unmistakable mark of Blackwood bloodline. "This child," Marcus said, standing, "is my late wife's daughter. She was presumed dead, but was actually kidnapped by Aria 2 years ago. I've been searching for her ever since." "That's a lie," Aria said. "You tried to kill her, left her to die of exposure because she was evidence of your crimes. Prove it." Marcus's voice was a challenge, and that's when Thorne played their ace. "We can," he said, nodding to his beta, who stepped forward with a medical file. "We had Lily examined by a neutral healer. The examination revealed something interesting. Old injuries. Specific injuries consistent with deliberate hypothermia exposure and prolonged neglect." He handed the file to the head counselor. "Those injuries occurred when she was an infant, right around the time Melanie Blackwood died. If Marcus had been caring for his daughter, how did she sustain those injuries?" Marcus's composure slipped slightly. "The girl was ill. We did everything we could." "You left her to die," Aria interrupted, her voice ringing through the chamber. "Because she's not just Melanie's daughter. She's the alpha heir, born with the genetic markers that prove she has more right to lead Blackwood Pack than you do." Silence fell. "Is this true?" the head counselor asked, looking at the medical file. "Does the child carry the alpha gene?" "Yes," the healer who'd examined Lily confirmed. "Strong markers. She's a natural alpha." The implications were clear to everyone present. If Lily was the legitimate heir, Marcus's claim to Blackwood leadership was shaky, at best. "This is absurd," Marcus snarled, his control finally breaking. You'd take the word of a kidnapper and a reclusive alpha over mine? I've led Blackwood Pack for 5 years. Under false pretenses, Thorne said. You murdered your pregnant wife to hide your crimes. You tried to murder her child. And you've been running an illegal trafficking operation that violates every law we hold sacred. You have no proof of murder. Actually, a new voice said from the chamber doors, we do. A woman entered, elderly, dignified, with Melanie's eyes. Aria recognized her immediately. Grandmother, she breathed. I couldn't stay silent anymore, Melanie and Aria's grandmother said, moving to stand beside them. Not when my great-granddaughter's life is at stake. She turned to the council. I have Melanie's original evidence. Files, recordings, photographs. Everything she gathered about Marcus's trafficking operation. She gave them to me for safekeeping before she died, afraid he might destroy them. She produced a flash drive. It's all here, including a recording from the night she died. A recording that proves Marcus knew about her pregnancy and saw the child as a threat to his power. The council moved into deliberation. Marcus stood frozen, his empire crumbling around him. The verdict came swiftly. Marcus Blackwood was stripped of his alpha title and sentenced to life imprisonment for murder, attempted murder, and pack trafficking. His assets were frozen, his pack dissolved pending reorganization, and Lily Blackwood was officially recognized as the true heir of the Blackwood bloodline. The child is too young to lead, the head counselor said. A regent will need to be appointed until she comes of age. I nominate Alpha Thorne Silvercrest, Aria said immediately. Thorne looked at her in surprise. Aria? You've protected us when no one else would. You've proven yourself fair, strong, and just. Aria met his eyes. I trust you to guide Lily until she's ready to lead on her own terms. The council agreed. Thorne was appointed regent of Blackwood Pack, with the understanding that Lily would be trained in leadership and given her rightful position when she reached maturity. As they left the council chambers, as Marcus was led away in silver chains, Aria finally felt the weight she'd been carrying for 2 years begin to lift. It's over, she whispered to Thorne. It's really over. No, Thorne said, pulling her and Lily close. It's just beginning. Our life together. Our family. Our future. He was right. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Epilogue. 1 year later, Lily ran through Silvercrest's gardens in her wolf form, a beautiful silver pup with eyes that gleamed with intelligence and joy. Other pups chased after her, all of them playing without fear, without secrets. Aria watched from the terrace, Thorne's arm warm around her waist. She's thriving, he said, pride evident in his voice. Because she's free, Aria replied. Free to shift, to play, to just be a child. The past year had brought more changes than Aria could have imagined. Blackwood Pack, under Thorne's regency, had been purged of corrupt members and rebuilt on principles of fairness and justice. The trafficking operation had been completely dismantled, the captives freed and rehabilitated. And Aria and Thorne had formalized their bond, mating before both packs in a ceremony that celebrated not just their love, but the triumph of truth over corruption. I have something for you, Thorne said, producing a small box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, with a stone the exact color of Lily's eyes. It's beautiful, Aria breathed. It's a promise, Thorne said, slipping it onto her finger, that I'll spend every day making sure you and Lily know how loved you are, how precious, how worth fighting for. Aria kissed him, pouring 2 years of gratitude and love and hope into the gesture. When they broke apart, Lily came bounding up in human form, throwing her arms around both of them. Daddy, Mama, did you see me? I was the fastest. We saw, little Alpha, Thorne said, scooping her up. You were magnificent. When I grow up, I'm going to be the best Alpha ever, Lily declared. Just like you, Daddy. And I'm going to make sure everyone in my pack is safe and happy and never has to hide. Aria's eyes filled with tears. This child, who'd spent half her life in fear, was now dreaming of leading with compassion and strength. "You will be," Aria said, hugging them both. "The very best." As the sun set over Silvercrest, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Aria reflected on her journey. From frightened fugitive to beloved Luna, from hiding in shadows to standing in the light. She'd broken all 3 of her rules. She'd stayed longer than 6 months. She'd let people get close enough to ask questions, and she'd let them see Lily's eyes. And breaking those rules had given her everything. A home, a family, a love that was worth every risk. "What are you thinking about?" Thorne asked, reading her expression. "How wrong I was," Aria said softly. "About running, about hiding, about love being dangerous. And now? Now I know the truth." Aria looked up at him, at the man who'd protected her, cherished her, fought for her. Love isn't dangerous. Love is the safest place in the world. Because when you love someone, you're never alone in the fight. Thorne kissed her forehead. "Never alone," he agreed. "Always together." "Always," Aria promised. And as Lily pulled them both into another hug, as laughter filled the air around them, Aria knew, with absolute certainty, this was her happily ever after. Not because everything was perfect, but because she'd finally stopped running and discovered that home wasn't a place. It was the people who loved you, who fought for you, who saw you, really saw you, and chose you anyway. That was home. That was everything. Thank you so much for listening to He is Oddly Possessive of Me and of a Child That Isn't His, but I'm Only the Alpha's Maid. I hope Aria, Thorne, and Lily's journey touched your heart. This is Dora, and I'd love to hear from you. What did you think of the mystery surrounding Lily's identity? Did the protective alpha trope work for you? Drop a comment below and let me know your favorite moment. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please give it a like and subscribe to Dora's Romance audiobooks for more shifter romances, protective alpha stories, and tales of found family and second chances. Coming up next, a story about a she-wolf who's been rejected by fate itself, and the alpha who refuses to let destiny have the final word. Until next time, remember, sometimes the family we choose is stronger than the family we're born into. And sometimes, the greatest act of courage is letting someone love you. With love, Dora.